Hello everybody and welcome back to Deansbury Town. I'm going to cover the creation of the next building in Station Corner today and take a closer look at how I created this extension, the open doors and the guttering details. If you do enjoy this video, please do let me know in the comments below. It's always good to hear your feedback. In the previous video, I built the corner buildings here, number 242 Hanley Road and number 1 Market Hill. In this video, I'm constructing the next building in the series, and that is number 236 Hanley Road, which occupies this space. Initially, I was planning to build these here, number 238 and 240, but I've got a very special video planned for these, but it's going to take a little longer to put together. The prototype inspiration for number 236 once again comes from Hanley Town Centre in the form of this white building here. While it's not a direct copy, I have used the painted white brick and the idea of the triangular rear extension in my building. As previously, the building has been designed in Inkscape using the various rectangles to lay out the building's features, and the outputs were separated into the card elements to cut out and the printed cover layers. The front of the building has been built using much the same techniques previously, so I'm not going to go over those again in any detail. For this building, I tried to fit the wooden back door using the normal technique of mounting it behind the wall, but for this style of door it doesn't look quite right. So I decided to trim it flush to mount it within the frame. I cut the door into its two halves so I could mount one half slightly ajar to add a bit more interest. But because this was going to be quite fragile, I decided to leave the fitment of this until the end of the building to avoid damaging it, so I'll cover this at the end. Although I'm not modelling the interior, the floors were fitted to the building to give it some strength and to support the back panel. In addition, a box was made around the door opening to restrict the light. This was then painted black to create the impression of shadow inside. To block the view through the windows of the building, again I fitted curtains. These were mounted on spacers to create a little depth and were made from tissue paper, painted grey, and then washed with a black wash to represent a dirty, run-down appearance. In this building I've installed a single orange LED light to replicate the glow from a fireplace, which I think looks quite effective here with the room lights down. I got a comment on my last video, very helpfully suggesting using copper tape to run the lighting wires inside the building. I've no idea why I didn't try this before, because I do have a roll of this, and indeed I did find it a lot easier. Just self-adhesive, sticks on the inside of the building, and a tiny blob of solder is required for the joints. A simple back was cut out of cardboard and fitted using PVA, and then with the roof base on I could move on with the extension. I've made this triangular in shape to roughly match the prototype and fill the backyard area. So I sanded the corners to an angle using a spacer, test fitted in place. I then cut triangular spacers to hold the building at the correct shape. And the outer wrap was added in the normal way, although the windows were quite small and fiddly to wrap. I could then glue the extension to the main building, keeping everything nice and square. Moving on to the roof tiles, I could then cut and add these. I'm going to make a separate video about how I made these tile strips using the Cricut Maker cutting machine, but for this video the strips were added using plenty of PVA glue, and when dry, the overhang was trimmed and the roof was painted using acrylic paints. So when you're painting your models, whatever you do, drop your paintbrush onto the nice white brickwork. Take a look at the finished building at the end of the video and let me know if you think I've managed to cover this one up. I thought about adding a texture layer to the flat roof, but in the end I painted this light grey and just added a coping strip, and I think it looks fine for what it is. LED flashing was represented using tissue paper soaked in PVA glue and then painted with a metallic enamel, which gives a nice effect here. Guttering was then made from plastic half round rod and round rod for the downpipes. And I experimented with tiny slithers of paper to form the guttering brackets here. However, I did manage to get my head and my desk lamp into most of my footage of this. And now with the building assembled and the guttering in place, I returned to the back doors. Having already cut these in half, I needed to hide the bare edges, so these were touched in using a mix of watercolour paints. To give the doors some relief, I scored each of the planks with my scoring tool and created the effect of some damage at the base of the doors. The finished door is very effective, I think, and does stand up very well to close inspection. These were glued in place, slightly open using PVA glue, and I added tiny slithers of copper tape to the walls to form the fixed part of the hinges. A tiny dab of wash tones this down, but is quite an effective look for these metal components. I assembled a soil stack out of the thicker rod and used tissue paper to form the joints, and this was glued in place and gives a bit more variety to the back of the building. I'm going to leave this video here for now. I will add a few more details to the back of the building and some weathering in due course, but I think I'll do this to all the buildings once they're finished. If you have enjoyed this video, please do leave a like and a comment and consider subscribing if you haven't already done so. It's always great to hear your thoughts. I do read all the comments and I do reply to them all, if not straight away. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.